All right. Hello, everybody. I am Tim coming to you from Las Vegas.
And I'm Sam coming at you from the Pacific Northwest up in the corner of the country.
Yes, and here we are again, Sam, getting together, chatting, talking about games, and
yes, sir.
Having a good time.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
What have you been up to this past week? Anything interesting?
Well, I mean, we're actually coming to a close. This is a really, really busy time of the year because it's the end of the school year, and that means end of soccer season, end of band season, end of this season, end of that season, end of my life. I mean, another season. No, I mean, it's just like everything is coming to a close and everything is trying to garner your time because everything is super important because we have to get it done before the end of the school year. And I thought I left this behind when I stopped teaching. Yea, verily, I have not. Added to that, we have a teenager in the house that is graduating this year, so there's
congratulations,
more stuff on top of that. And then on top of that, she's getting ready to go into college next semester, and so there's just. And what makes it a little bit worse is that, first of all, I don't want to be that person that's like, having teenagers in the house is a bad thing, and it sucks, and it's so bad. And no, it's not that. It's just that it's really busy. And the one thing, however, that does really, 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 really kind of suck is that teenagers are infinitely horrible at communication. And so we will often find ourselves with a set itinerary for the evening. We'll have dinner. We'll have some bubbly. No, we don't drink, but we'll do this, we'll do that, and we'll just kind of rest. And then at like 3:30, we'll get phone calls. Oh, hey, by the way, I forgot that I had this, and I just found out. They just told us. Yeah, right. They just told us that this is going to happen now. I'm like, you have no idea how the adult world works. This is not how things are scheduled.
Right. Oh. Take a breath.
It's just one of those things, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How did you just had a game day at your warehouse, did you not?
We did. It was
how did that go?
This past weekend. It was fantastic. We had about 35 people, which was very good.
Yeah.
That's about good. Our capacity. We could have had a little bit more, but we only have one bathroom is the unfortunate thing. So you have to keep the numbers low for that one reason.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was fantastic. People really enjoyed it. We got to sell a lot of our old games that were culling, getting out.
Cool.
We sold some of our tables too. And it was just a nice get together. People really enjoyed it. We went from Friday from like noon to 10, Saturday from 8 to 10, and then Sunday from 10 to 6. So it was quite a lot of time gaming, and it's good because a lot of these people, I just don't get to see too often, and when I do see them at like Dice Tower West, I can't really play games with them or hang out with them. So it was nice to be able just to have the time to get to hang out with these people and play games with them, and so it was really good. It was really a really good time.
So I have a question. You said you sold some of the old games off. What's the ballpark? What kind of, how did you sell those off? Did you find out what they were currently worth on the market and then discount it? Or did you just like slap a price on it and hopefully somebody buys it?
Yes. So no, went through piece by piece. We made a whole bunch. We had probably about 2,000 games there. Oh. And what we did is, I shouldn't say we.
Wait, you hold 2,000 games?
Well, that we just had this weekend for sale and we still have, and we have even more because what we did, or what they did is went through the games piece by piece, looked up a game, because again, we had this whole collection that we got donated to us, so a bunch of old games, but just a whole bunch of games.
I gotcha. Yeah.
And unfortunately, when Dave and I first got this collection, we were both really excited about maybe starting a board game museum. right? To display the games people can see. But we kind of find out that people just don't really have interest in that. You know what I mean? It's one of those kind of things. Oh, that's a cool old game, and you move on. It's like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
It's not that attractive as we thought it would be. So we just got
Right.
a lot of these games. So yeah, no, they went around, looked on eBay, checked, sold recently, and anything that was like under $20 or whatever. There's no sense in spending the time for eBay and all that, all that kind of stuff. Blah, blah. So we just put it in a room. All those games in a room. Anything above, we put in a separate room that we'll be listing on eBay selling later. So then after that, we just games $5 each. That was it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason I inquire about it is because I just a buddy of mine, Doug, he was just coming back from a class he was taking on the other side, similar to the one that I was taking a couple of weeks ago, but it's different. And he stopped at a couple of he was over there by himself, so he had the evenings free, and he basically just traveled around to different stores in the evenings after the class was over. And he stopped at a couple of different stores. He stopped in one that had a pretty good collection, a pretty good selection of games to choose from. And so he sent me a few videos of what they had on the shelves and asked me if they had anything that I was looking for. And so so he there was a copy of Monkey Palace. There was a copy of Tales of the Arthurian Knights. And I those were both on my radar. So I was like, yeah, check those out. And I also said, hey, and if they have any ding or dents, I'm cool with that, because I don't care how the outside of the box looks, generally speaking.
Right.
I just want to make sure that everything's on the inside. And so he was like, okay. And he calls me afterwards. No, actually, he sends me this picture of a box of Tales of Arthurian Knights, and it is just like wrecked. It's wrecked. And he said, well, they had this one, but he said he's only going to give me 10% off for it. And I was like, 10% off for that? It was horrible. I'll try to put the picture in here so that you guys can see it. But it was, just one whole corner was just done. It was just done. And so I was like, no, not for 10%. Just get me, 10% came up to like $8.
Right.
And I was like, for $8, I want a good box, but it was just funny because, and then the guy contacted me later and he said, it's a funny story. That happened to the box because he tried to pick it up with one hand and put it in the box in the bag, and he dropped it. So he dropped it, destroyed one corner of the box, and then was only going to give us 10% on it. And I was like, are you kidding me? It was just funny. The Monkey Palace also had kind of a ding in the box, and he was going to give us 10% on that. He couldn't figure out how much 10% of $34.99 was.
Really? Some people.
And Doug found out when he got back home and he looked at the receipt. They only gave him, it was something, it was like 8% off is what it actually, because he manually put it in there. And I was like, dude. Story behind Monkey Palace. All right. I like playing Legos. When they came out with a Lego game, I was like, hey, that's a convergence. That's a convergence of two things that I like. So I'm interested. Saw it that they were going to have it on the cruise. So that was on my list of games to play on the cruise. Kept going and checking. Every time I went to check it out, it wasn't there. Every time. And then finally at like 10 o'clock at night one night, I was like, oh, it's here. Finally. Oh, so I grabbed it off the shelf. 10 o'clock at night. My wife does not do late. She doesn't do late. Not even close. And so I was like, I start setting it up, and I get it all set up and I get it ready to go. And I look up at her and she's like eyeballing me. And I'm like, what? And she's like, I'm really tired. I don't think I'm going to make it. And I was like, I just set up the entire game. Anyway, so we weren't able to play it. I just packed it all up because she wasn't going to be able to do it. And so finally got to the table last night after Doug dropped it off on his way back home. And it is fun-ish.
Okay.
if you like Legos, and if you like putting Lego kits together, and if you like constructing Lego sets or whatever, you will possibly enjoy it. I can't say for a fact that you will absolutely enjoy it if you like putting together Legos. It seems like on the surface that this would be a slam dunk for a convergence of those two things. I don't know that it is. And the reason for that is because while the gameplay is fun and it's not difficult, I think it's a great, I think, kids game. But for adults, I think adults can enjoy it. But after the game was over, you have to deconstruct that monkey palace in such a way to where it can now be played again. Yeah, that's not very fun.
Oh, right. I can imagine.
Think about if you were going to put together a Lego kit, your favorite thing, whatever it's going to, Hogwarts or the Millennium Falcon or a Star Destroyer or the Death Star or whatever. And so after you get it all put together, you now have to deconstruct it so that it can be put together again, following the directions. That's not fun. And so that's a big story. I'm gonna continue playing. I'm gonna continue going after this game just like I would any other kind of game for a review, because that's why I wanted to pick it up. I wanted to cover it on my channel, but yeah, that teardown is something else. But the game is fun and the game is interesting, and how it's like a strategic three-dimensional puzzle that you're competitively putting together, and it's not a bad idea. But boy, that teardown is horrific. It's horrific. But maybe if I had more people, if it's a 4-player game and we're all kind of deconstructing at the same time, it won't take as long. But my wife had to go do something after we stopped playing last night, so it was just me, and I was like, ugh, this is a slog. But I enjoyed the game, so we'll have to see how it goes. But that was Monkey Palace.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I've heard about it, but I just haven't had a chance to get that to the table yet.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. So I got a chance to play a lot of games. I don't think I played anything new over the past week, but I played a lot of games, the weekend and the other night. But one of the games I did play a lot, I taught a lot, actually, and I really love was Bomb Busters. And we might have talked about this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I have. But just, about the game, it's a fully cooperative game. That you're trying to defuse bombs. You all have to work together to win the game, and I just love that genre of games. But a couple of interesting things that I discovered, and it's one of those things that people with those type of games, especially when it's cooperative, so like you're all invested together, you really don't want to make a mistake, right? When you're playing games like Agricola or Go, just whatever regular board game, if you make mistakes, it's on you. You've made a mistake. You've messed up your turn. But with the cooperative games, so people get real stressed. But sometimes what they don't realize, especially like in Bomb Busters, a mistake is information, right? So it's kind of not that bad. Of course, you don't want to make mistakes because the timer goes down, right?
Yeah, too many mistakes is bad. But
correct, too many mistakes, will end the game. But it's one of those kind of things I think people just get too anxious about, too much anxiety. Oh, I don't want to make a mistake. No, hey, just take your turn, do it, because that's information. It could be good because now people know a number. They've got information that could help and whatever. And so I really learned that. And so I can see why those games are stressful to a lot of people, the cooperative games, because again, the mistake affects the group instead of just you as the individual.
Just you, right?
So that's why people may not love that genre as much as I do, for that reason. But people still like the game. It's a very enjoyable game. I still have not played. I always start people at level 8, right? Because that is the last introductory level. Because the first box is 9 to 19. And then after that, we would sometimes just skip around. Oh, let's try 14. Let's try 17. Let's try 12 within that box. But I haven't been above that yet. But there are 66 different ones, and I'm really looking.
No, there's 66 of them.
yeah, to go through this game for years, right?
Yeah.
And just be able to pick things out here and there. So I think Bomb Busters is just one of those kind of games that you can have on your shelf for several years and still find something new every for many 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 plays.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think one having you articulate that stress that's inherent in most cooperative games actually is probably what makes Bomb Busters feel so thematic for me. Because I mean, think about it. If you're sitting there trying to defuse a bomb, cutting these wires, you're going to be sweating bullets.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Even if you know what you're doing, you know, like these bomb techs that work for the police department or for the military or what have you, they're sweating bullets, man, because you never know what some weirdo is going to do with their explosive device. So I think that's one of the reasons why Bomb Busters feels so thematic. It's really just a deductive logic game. That's really all it is. But
Correct.
it feels so thematic because of that stress that comes along with. Well, you can only make a certain number of mistakes, you know, and
That's right. And also the tools. We learned that people
mhm.
again since it is a cooperative game. Sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to be the one to use the tool, right? I don't want to make that decision. No, I mean that's what they're there for. Let's not go down in flames, or let's not explode or lose the game with tools still on the table, right? We
Yeah.
have to use them. They're there to be used. So.
Yeah.
Let's use them, So but I just enjoy it. It's still a lot of fun, stress and all.
Yeah,
It's
stress and all.
wonderful.
Yep. Sometimes stress is good in games. Sometimes I don't like a whole lot of it, but sometimes it's necessary for
Yep.
whether it's the context of the game or the theme of the game or whatever it might be. It's just kind of necessary for it to be there so that it's not the la 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 feeling of going through the game.
Absolutely.
So that's cool. The second game I want to talk about is one that we're actually playing on the channel later on today, and I've played it twice already with just the solo mode, so I could teach myself how to play and get experience with it to teach other people how to play it. And that is Unmatched Adventures: Tales to Amaze. And I've played against both the Mothman and the Martian Invader at this point, and the Martian Invader. And I've also played with the event cards, because the event cards are what they call the advanced play module. You can, if you want a little bit more of a more difficult experience, then use the event cards. And basically what the event card deck is that you can choose 1 to 3 event cards that are in play throughout the entirety of the game. It's not like you have an event phase where you flip one over and do whatever it says. It's actually 3 conditions that help the bad guy. Not just the bad guy either. It helps the bad guy and all of his minions. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays with multiple people. We're going to play with 3 players today. And with 3 players, the boss, either Mothman or the Martian Invader, is going to have 30 hit points. And then you're also going to have 3 minions on the board. So there's actually going to be 4 bad guys with only 3 good guys. And with the possibility of the good guys having sidekicks as well, if you're familiar with Unmatched. So I'm really enjoying this game so far. I think it's a great addition to addition, rather, not addition. That sounded like I said addition, but it's a good addition to the Unmatched game system, I think, because largely the system is a competitive game. It is, free for all, or it's team versus team, or it's 1v1. This is cooperative against a boss and minions. And so that's a really cool addition to that game system. I'm curious. JT and Jesse and I are going to play, and I'm curious to see how JT feels about it, because he's not really a fan of the Unmatched game system as a competitive game, but I do know that he likes cooperative games. So I'm wondering if he'll like this more. I think he will, but I'm wondering how much more he'll like this rather than regular Unmatched. But it's also cool because all of the heroes that come in the box are compatible in the competitive game with any other, against any of the other heroes that are already in this system.
Right.
So that's a cool thing as well. But so far, so good is my feeling on Unmatched Adventures Tales to Amaze. And they do have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles version coming out soon, which, yeah, I'm going to have to get my hands on because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
There you go. Hey, so the Unmatched series, that's those are the ones with it's strictly 1v1 game, right? They're 2-player games.
Not necessarily. No, they do have sets where, for example, one of my favorite sets is for King and Country, and it comes with Black Widow, Black Panther, and the Winter Soldier. Both sides of the map that come in the box can be 1v1 or 1v1v1 free for all.
Okay.
So it can be 3-player, and you can play as teams with 2 versus 2. So it does go all the way up to 4 players, but with that having been said, it's really designed. It used to be Star Wars Epic Duels, if you remember what that was, or if you've ever played that. But and then Restoration Games got the license for the game, and then took the line of sight system from Tannhäuser and added it in and basically revitalized Star Wars Epic Duels under a different IP. And so it's really a 2-player game, but it does have the ability to take more than that. And the Tales to Amaze goes all the way up to 4. It can handle 4 players, 4 versus the boss and 4 minions.
Oh, very good. Yeah. I've played that once, maybe twice. I was a little lukewarm on it also. I'd be more than willing to play it again because, again, it's one of those kind of things I'm sure you've experienced, Sam, right? In our growth in gaming, right? And it's one of those kind of things where you're ever growing, right?
Yeah.
Ever evolving, ever learning. So you're, even somebody like Tom who's played, 10,000, 20, whatever number of games, he's still, you're still growing. And it could be one of those kind of things where now I've evolved or changed or whatever, where I'm kind of like, oh, wow, this is a good game.
Yeah,
so,
well, it is a lighter game. And I know you're not always on the heavier games, but I know that you also do like the heavier games. You tend to lean heavy a little bit more. So it is a lighter game. So, and I know usually, well, with most heavy gamers that I enjoy, it's not that they don't enjoy lighter games. It's just that they're incredibly picky. And I don't mean that in a bad way. They're just picky about the kind of light games they want to play.
Right.
And I think that probably holds true with you. So, and that's normal. There's nothing bad about that. There's nothing, because some people will say that, well, Euro gamers are just a bunch of snooty gamers. They don't want to play anything else other than the heavy war games and such. And so, but it's not that. It's just that what you like is what you like. And
Correct.
So if you like heavier games, you're usually tend to be more picky with lighter ones. So I would give it a whirl if I were you again. Yeah, absolutely. Just to kind of refresh it, because it'll do one of two things. It'll either confirm that you do not like it, or it will confirm that you think that it is a good game. It'll do one of those two.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm definitely gonna get it back to the table again. It's not something I've totally dismissed for sure.
Mm-hmm.
See, one of the other things I think I'll talk about, again, is the same genre cooperative because I played them a lot, was Lord of the Rings trick-taking game. And I think we might have talked about this before. And yes, I'm really starting to discover, and again, it's one of those slow growth games, right? Because play with somebody new, start at 1, you get to 4 or 5, because that's what, an hour and a half, maybe whatever, blah, 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 and then you stop. Get a new group, start at 1, get to 4. I mean, so I think I've only gotten to 7. However, somebody played it and they just put it back all wrong because you should sort of reset it to put it back, and I guess they might have been looking through the whole thing, so I had to go through all 18 and reset them and all kind of stuff. And as I was looking through, I'm like, oh wow, this looks really cool. Oh wow, that looks really. Oh wow, and I'm like, wow, I can't wait to get through the whole thing, because
right.
just put it, oh, this character coming in. Oh, look at their ability. Oh, this is what you have to do. Oh, wow. So, and again, like you said, it is so good. Just through the 7 chapters, I guess they're called, that I've gotten through so far. It was, it's Brian's game, but I know Taylor did, a lot of the development. They working hand in hand with that. They have done a fantastic, just phenomenal job with that game. And I know the other ones are made already. I
was just thinking they better make Two Towers and Return of the King for this.
Yeah, they were at they had them at the gathering. They were playing. I didn't have a chance to play because, like they were playing and they were testing with a couple other people. I wanted to try it. So they're there and they're hammering it out, play testing. But it's one of those kind of things is, it's going to be a slam dunk, and that it's not going to be worse, I imagine. The follow-ups, right? They'll be as good, if not better. But it's one of those kind of things you can look for, and I would pretty sure and guaranteeing that people will be satisfied with the follow-ups, which is probably done in the first ones.
Oh boy, you know what? It's almost the same thing. Sometimes as movie sequels, I look at them in a very similar light, because sometimes the movie sequels are just as good or better than the original, but sometimes it's like, I can tell you were just cashing in on this one. You phoned this one in, and I can tell, and I certainly hope that's not. And with Brian involved, I don't think that's going to happen. I kind of I know Brian loosely over the years, and he doesn't seem like the kind of person that's just going to phone something in. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's probably going to sell.
Yep.
The hope is that they don't phone it in,
I don't think they will. I don't think
think so either.
Yeah. But just going real quick to your thing about movie sequels, that's a whole other discussion, so I really don't want to get into it. But I would argue, and I would say that more often than not, the sequels aren't as good or are lackluster. I say, like, for example, to me, there are very, I could maybe, if we sat around about it and really thought about it, I could maybe get to one hand. Like, one right off the bat was as good, if not better, was The Godfather, right? The second one of The Godfather was, people can argue was as good, if not better, than the first. But if you start going back to a lot of ones, it's very rare. Yes.
I don't think I've watched The Godfather, any of them in their entirety.
Really?
Yeah. So I feel like I'm in a confessional right now, but I've just mafia stuff has never really kind of been something that I'm super interested in. I'm
very interested in it.
The historical aspect of it. I think it's really cool to see it in history, but I've never been like, I've never been really kind of interested in that kind of thing. But that's interesting. We're going to have to talk about that, I think, because I can think of probably 5 right off the top of my head that I think are better than.
Name one.
Name one.
Yeah.
Aliens is better than the original, in my opinion. Both Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back are better than A New Hope in their cinematic quality. They don't have the oomph that the first one had, that episode 4 had, but their cinematic quality improved.
But with Sam, again, we probably shouldn't get too deep into it, but I would just say that the Star Wars ones is that sort of fair to bring in this topic, because they're different movies. They're not like. I mean,
they're sequels.
I know this is kind of weird.
Continuation of the timeline.
What's that?
It's a continuation of the timeline. It's definitely a sequel.
Yes, but here's what I mean. When I'm saying the second one, it's for example, Jaws 2 is like, that is just a made movie to try to capitalize off the first, because they killed the shark in Jaws 1, so there can't be sort of a follow-up. It was just a money grab. But Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, those are like different stories. You know what I mean? It's not like a just quote unquote two. You understand what I'm saying?
No, they're not different stories. It's Lucas actually wrote the entire story and then chopped it up into 3 different. It's the same story.
No. Yes, it is the same story. I don't know. It's like I said, I'm getting off topic, but it's not. It's to me, it's like again, like I'm using Jaws as the example. Like Jaws 2, it's like, okay, why are you making a follow up? You killed the shark. It's
right. I think that's, and again, we'll stop here because we're talking about this next time. I'm coming for you, but no, I think that's the problem. That's the problem with sequels, is that some sequels aren't actually sequels. They're just cash grabs.
Right.
But then you have movies like the Indiana Jones franchise, the Star Wars franchise, that are actually sequels. They are continuations of that storyline. And please don't go into the prequels thing. But I wanted to see it, but anyway, the idea is, I think I think the problem is found in what you're pointing out. So let's think about that more, and we'll revisit this next week.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a couple of conventions coming up, right? Because Origins is in a couple of weeks, and then Dice Tower East is at the beginning of July. Oh, Sam, you got your Origins shirt. Is that the new one, or is that last year's?
No, this is like 2 years ago, I think.
2 years ago. Okay. So one of the things is, because I was talking to a friend about this the other day, or no, actually it was just you, I think, whatever. But the truth of the matter is that most people, like, it was just you earlier today. I'm sorry, my timeline's all messed up. Is that
it's all bleeding together?
Yeah, most people don't actually go to conventions, to board game conventions. And so when we have a choice of the different types of conventions to that you have a chance to attend to, because again, if you look at the demographics, say between 25 and 50 or whatever, it might be the sweet spot for conventions. I'm sort of just making that number up, but those people are probably still working. So if they're going to take a week out of their life or 4 or 5 days off of work, they have to be kind of picky about it, right? Because they have vacation time, their family, whatever else they're doing. So why would you choose certain conventions? And what are you looking and hoping to get out of the different types of conventions that are out there?
Yep. Well, this is an interesting topic, because when I was working back during the COVID years, when basically conventions shut down for about 12 to 18 months, we really started to hit on, and publishers started to, the people who are creating the conventions, the convention companies, were starting to think outside the box. And instead of bringing the people to the convention, they had to start thinking about how to bring the convention to the people. And that opened up a whole new demographic. You had the regular convention goers that were not really savvy with going to an online convention because it just didn't feel the same. But then the people who were not regular convention goers were very hip on it, because it gave them a taste of what a convention would be like. And when I was working for Mythic, that was part of my job. There were a couple of conventions that we did that were online conventions, and so I was manning a booth for a couple of 4-hour shifts throughout the course of a day, and it was literally just me sitting in front of a computer with our game of whatever it was set up on Tabletop Simulator, and people were joining me, and I was teaching them how to play it. It was just like a regular convention, booth work at a regular convention, but I was sitting in my dining room at my dining room table. It's that kind of thing. So that, however, brought into this the real hard fact that we touched base with a number of people that we would have never seen had that been a normal convention. The demographic shift was very palpable, if I can put it that way. And we reached a bunch of people that we would have never reached, and that was an interesting thing because I had never really thought about it. When you go to a convention like Gen Con and they start spouting numbers of 60,000 people, 70,000 people over the course of 4 days, you kind of start having the idea in your head that, oh, well, most board gamers go to a convention. And that's the real reality, is that that's just not true. Most
Right.
don't, because most can't. Um, because of what you said, they have jobs, school, life in general. So it is one of those things that you do have to be kind of picky. I've had a lot of people in the past ask me, should they go to, I've never been to a convention before. Should I go to Gen Con? And, to be honest, I have to tell them, I would think twice about that, because Gen Con, especially, or Essen, or even Origins, it's a little bit of a different bear than probably what somebody that has never been to a convention is thinking about.
Oh, 100%. However, I would say, I mean, I understand what you're saying, right? But
Mhm.
you're giving them that advice as having, attended several of those conventions, whether or not they should go
Yeah,
to a Gen Con.
right.
I would say, because many people have asked me, again, I my first inkling would be to say exactly what you said. However, now my first response is, listen, Origins, Gen Con, Essen, if those are the big three, PAX Unplugged is,
Mhm.
would replace Origins actually, as far as the big three. I would say, if you consider yourself a gamer, this is part of your life, you love this hobby, yes, you should attend each one once. I would just recommend. Just try
Hmm.
them once to make your own decision, because again, they all have their different flavors. They're all for certain things. They all accomplish
Yeah.
certain things. You learn whatever,
Mhm.
blah blah blah, and then you have a chance to decide. Because like right now, again, like you're saying, hey, yeah, for me, Gen Con, yeah, if I never went back to Gen Con, I wouldn't miss it. It's too many people, too much,
Yeah.
whatever. But you should go once to find out.
Sure. Well, I mean, I definitely understand that, and I usually, like, for example, and this is like boiling it down here, but when I'm giving a review about a game, I will usually give somebody the caveat: if you can try before you buy, do that.
Mhm.
But the problem with that and putting it into the convention, you have to buy in order to try.
Right.
So you can't just go to a convention for free to see what it's like before you pay for it. But that's still kind of the same ideology. If you've never been to a convention before, um, I, I would say your first step into that river, being Gen Con, might be, no matter who you are, overwhelming, unless you are just one of those people that thrives in large crowds. You
True.
love large crowds, you love doing this. And if you are anything but a person that thrives on large crowds, I would do my research before I went to Gen Con. Look at as many pictures as possible, watch as many videos as possible, and try to put yourself in the shoes of the person creating that video or taking that picture, and see if you would be comfortable in that kind of setting. I am not a large groups kind of people. When I go to Gen Con, I usually want to be part of a booth. Like, for example, I don't think I would ever, this is going to sound strange. I don't think I would ever go to a convention if I wasn't working for somebody at the convention, because I'm just not a large groups kind of person. I don't enjoy that setting. There's too many variables and it makes me a little bit anxious. But if I'm going, like, for example, I'm going to Origins and I'm going to be working with Kevin Burkhardt-Meyer at the Game Toppers booth. But if I wasn't doing that, or if I wasn't going with Love Thy Nerd and working at some other company's booth, then I probably wouldn't be going to Origins. Because for me, it's twofold. First of all, it's large groups of people, not a fan. Second, it's basically a week away from my family, also not a fan. Um, and for those two things, I would rather just be here rather than doing that.
Right.
That's not a vacation for me. It's more like work.
Right. So that comes into the whole thing about, deciding what type of convention is good for you and
Yeah.
what you're choosing to go for. So to me, the number one factor, yeah, sure, comfort level and all that does have a factor, right? If you don't like big crowds, also, I get that. But you need to decide, in my opinion, what is your goal? Okay.
Yeah.
For
Yes.
instance, let's start breaking that down. So what is your goal? If your goal, like what I like, what I prefer are like the play cons, right? Like Dice Tower
Hmm.
West, the
Hmm.
Retreat, Dice Tower East, the Gathering. Those are 100, well, not 100% because whatever, but those are primarily play cons. Like
Yeah.
if you just want to play, those are the cons you go to.
Yep.
Um, if
And
you
they're
want
generally the smaller ones as well. They're generally smaller conventions.
Correct. Yes, I would agree with that for sure. Generally, the smaller conventions. If you want to, if you're the kind of person who just wants to demo or try all the latest hotness, see what's coming on, Kickstarters, all that. That's what like Gen Con is for. Because like my friend Chris, who he probably goes with like 30 games scheduled or something. Like he's just a nut, right? And he's got his whole time scheduled because that's what he does. He bounces
Mhm.
around. Hey, this Kickstarter I back, I'm gonna go play it over here, try it out, or that I'm interested in. I'm gonna go do
Yeah.
this demo. I'm gonna go, and he just has. So that's great if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
If you
Absolutely.
want to buy the games, then you go to Essen, right? If you want all the newest, hottest Euro games that probably will not make it to America for another 6 months, maybe even, or something like that, that's what you go to too. But you also get to play games at Essen, right? And again, what people don't realize, Essen, you play the game. Like at Gen Con, they'll give you like a demo. You sit down for 20 minutes, 15 minutes, try the game, see like Essen, you sit down, they just sit down and play the whole game.
Yeah.
But there you just get, and Essen, it was more of the world of gaming than Gen Con, right? Because at Essen, you're going to get, a lot of Asian companies, South
Yeah.
American, Europe,
Yeah.
African, whatever, just the whole world converges on Essen. So you'll
Absolutely.
really be able to pick out games from all over the world. Number one, the hottest that may not come
Yeah.
to America, not
Yeah.
only maybe not for the next 6 months, but maybe never at all. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You may never see some of the games at Essen in America. So if
No,
you
that's
really
true.
want that aspect, then do that.
No, I would absolutely agree with that. And I would, even though it's a higher price tag, because European flights are just stupid expensive right now. Um, if that's what you're looking for, if you want to put your finger on the pulse of the international board game community, Essen is your Huckleberry.
100%.
That's where you want to go.
Yes.
But it's also about, I think, I want to say that it's about twice the size of Gen Con. I don't think it's.
Yeah, that's kind of hard because
Yeah,
Essen,
it is. I think they have two different ways of counting
they do. Essen
their
does count
attendees.
yeah.
So it's hard to, but I will say this: it definitely feels. Now, Gen Con sprawls out. They use part of the Lucas Oil Stadium. They use the Indianapolis Convention Center and most of it. But Essen is like, and again, I haven't been there in like, I don't know, I want to say six years. No, yeah, about 6 years. Um, it's like in one huge convention center, but there's like 8 different halls, and the
Right.
size of the halls are all different. So it just feels like the same amount of stuff compacted, but there's so many more people. It feels like in
Yeah.
a couple of the different halls. I don't know. Maybe they're about the same size, but I think for me, Essen would be the one of choice. Um, as compared to Gen Con. But if I had to choose between those two, if I really wanted to choose the size of convention that would be kind of the ceiling for me, would probably be Origins or UKGE. Those two are the ones that are kind of like on that level of, yeah, this is big, but it's not too big.
Correct.
But if you're thinking about should I go to conventions, should I do this, and Generally speaking, my answer would be yes. I'll fall in line with Tim on this. Generally speaking, the answer is yes. But I would say, like for example, I've had people that sometimes have to think twice about coming to game night because, oh, I don't know, there's so many people there, and I'm like, there's 20 people here. That's not a lot of people. But and so if you're balking at going to your game night that has 20 to 30 people in it because there's too many people, let me tell you, you're going to hit the roof at Gen Con or Essen, and you're just not going to enjoy your time if you're struggling with a group of 20 to 30 people. You're just I can't see how, if you struggle in that situation, you're going to have fun at a place like Gen Con.
Yeah, no.
So I'm usually very I try to be very transparent when people ask that question, and they probably bite off more than they can chew when they ask me that question, because I'll probably give them a little bit more of an in-depth answer than they were asking for. But I think it's important because I don't want to tell people to go do something and then they have a horrible time doing it, and so.
Yeah, and the thing about it is and I know I'm going to sound like I'm tooting my own horn or promoting my own event, but I'm going to. I'm sorry for Dice Tower West.
How dare you?
Yes, I know. But the reason I'm going to say this is because we have tried really, really hard to 100% keep it as a PlayCon, and that's what people know it as. However, we do have I'm not going to say everything, of course, but you know what I mean. That an experience in a minor sense that you'll experience from Gen Con, right? We do have about 50 so exhibitors, so you get to experience that. We have the demo section, which is the same company that runs the demos at Gen Con, Envoy, so you can do that. We have shows, we have panels, we have play to win, we have hot game. So we have a lot of the things. So if you would, and again, I'm sorry if this sounds like promotion, but if you really want to have a chance to see what other cons offer, see what best suits you, then a con like Dice Tower West would be a good example, because we have really tried to have all that, but keep it play focused. Because if you get to Dice Tower West, right, you're like, man, all I did, I didn't go to a show, I didn't go to the exhibitors, man, I just played games. Well, then now you know that you're a PlayCon person, right? That's what you want. That's because the stuff was there for you to do, even in a small sense, and you didn't do it. But if you go to Dice Tower West, you're like, wow, man, I spent every day at those demos. It was fantastic. It was great. The exhibitors, man, I hardly played any games. Wow. Now know Gen Con's for you. That's what you need to go, because that's what it'll give you there. You know what I mean? So that's why, it's you need to find out what you are looking for, what you are hoping to get out of the time you're taking. Like you said, you're taking away from your family, you're taking away from your life, you're spending your vacation time doing whatever. That's valuable time to people. So whatever you're going to do to spend that valuable time, you want to make sure you get the best ROI on it, right?
Yep. Absolutely. And I think that's a great encouragement. If you do decide to go to one of these conventions, you need to know what you're going to do. Now, a couple of different things. There's two avenues to that, in my opinion. There's one avenue that you already mentioned earlier with your friend Chris, where he has 4 8-hour days scheduled to the brim with demos. The other avenue, and for me, it's kind of two ends of the spectrum here. That's one end. The other end of the spectrum is go into it with the ideology that you will not be able to do everything, because there's just too much to do at these conventions. You need to have at least an idea of why you're going to this convention and what you want to do at the convention. Maybe it is maybe you take 2 of the 4 days and you schedule demos on those two days, and the other 2 days you are just going to be walking around and seeing what piques your fancy at any given moment. Maybe that's the gist. Or maybe you take every single day and you just say, okay, I'm going to get to the halls at this point. I'm going to walk through. I'm going to see stuff, and I'm just going to, wherever the river flows, that's where I'm going to go.
Whatever happens.
And the reason I've seen too many people come in and they're like, it's almost like deer in the headlights, where there's so much going on and they feel overwhelmed because they know they're not going to be able to see everything. They're not going to be able to do everything. And it's like, I feel like I'm missing something. And it's like, you're not. You're here. You're experiencing stuff. Just figure out what you want to do and do it. You're not going to be able to do everything.
You're not. And another big factor, which you need to consider too, again, like I said, number one is what you're looking for, what you hope to get out of your time there, your experience, is the other factor, and I'll just give a couple of extremes, is your life outside of the convention hours. And what I mean by that is, let me give you like extreme. So with the gathering, I understand it's like a invitation only, so not everybody can go. However, you're sitting at a table and it's kind of like, oh, I forgot my glasses. Let me run to my room and get them. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Because so that's like at one extreme. It's right there. Boom, you're back to your room because it's blah, blah, blah. But the other extreme, at Gen Con, like everything sells out. You may have to stay in a hotel 40 minutes away from the convention center. You know what I mean? So you need to add, and if you want to stay close, you're going to be paying buku bucks. So you know what I mean? So you need to, that would probably be number two for me, right? Number one, what do you want to get out of the convention? What do you want your experience to be? And then number two, what outside of convention hours, what is your life going to be like?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's there's so many different avenues to that. You've got, you've got some of the booth workers that have been teaching games all day long and they don't want to teach a game. They just want to go to, the local hangout spot and just shoot the breeze with people. You've got the people that are there to play games. And they've been demoing all day and now they've been purchasing all day and now they're going to play some of the games. And that's what they do for the rest. My second, well, I don't know if it's my second, I don't know. Another encouragement for me, and I know you might disagree with this because of what you told me that you did at Gathering, bad little boy. You need to get sleep. You need to take care of yourself because, one of the things that I found is that for a number of different reasons, and I think this is one of them, tensions run high at a convention because people are sleep deprived.
Yes.
And they're just generally grumpy because they are not getting as much sleep as they normally do. And they're not eating as well as they normally do. And they're probably not hydrated as they normally are. And so their body just feels, bleh. Don't do that. Take care of yourself. Get enough sleep. I can't remember what the ratio is. It's like, and I saw a meme the other day and it made me like belly laugh, head back, belly laugh. And there was a girl standing there with a picket sign. And the sign said, if you can afford to be at a convention, you can afford deodorant. I was like, yes, truth.
Yeah.
So just, that's my another thing. It's really easy to just get caught up in the moment and forget to do stuff that you need to be doing. Sleeping, eating, and personal hygiene. These are all things that you need to do. Don't drop them at a convention.
Correct. But again, Sam, it ties in directly to what I was saying, right? Because outside of the convention hours, like say at Gen Con, it's 10 to 6.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say it's 10 to 6. Okay, that's what I mean. It ties in. So at 6 o'clock, the convention is over. You do have to realize at Gen Con, even at Essen, right? You are not eating anywhere close in a short period of time. Because all the restaurants are booked, all the restaurants are full, everybody's going to eat at you got 75,000 people leaving at the same time.
Minimum 2 hours. Minimum 2 hours.
Correct. So you got to keep that in consideration. If you're 45 minutes away, now you're going to have to drive home, right? And then you have to get back up. So yes, you do have to keep those in but that's part of your experience outside is you have to, oh man, what am I going to do to eat? Even if like during the con, you want to eat snacks or eat a lunch. you try to go to those food trucks out at Gen Con. They got, what, 50 food trucks, whatever, like back, between the convention center and the stadium or whatever it is. You still got to wait in line for those, and you got to walk to get there. So there's just so much involved. But again, I would highly recommend, if you love this hobby, if you love gaming and all that, if you're able, I think, Origins, PAX, Gen Con, Essen, at least once in your life, if you could, try one. And then from there, make a list. Okay, so let's just say, would you agree that those 4 are probably the biggest ones, right, in the world? Maybe.
We said Essen, Gen Con, PAX Unplugged, and Origins. There are other, like, just as large, but I think they're more for like industry.
Right.
They're more like industry conventions and not necessarily consumer conventions. I would imagine that those are 4 that's a good group.
Right. Or you could even break it down to 2. You could say the largest one in America, Gen Con, the largest one in the world, or Essen. Just even those 2. Yep. I would say, yes, at some point in your life, you should try to plan out to maybe attend each one of those at least once. They're sort of like bucket list items, right? Especially for a gamer, they would have to be on the bucket list just to go. Because, I know now, I've been 3 times, I think, to Essen. I know now, again, like I was saying, outside the lines, right? I got there, both times I got there on, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever, Tuesday, and then it starts on Thursday or Wednesday, whatever. And that's just not enough time, because, we're on the West Coast. To get over there, it's 8 or 9 hours difference. You lose sleep. And I was just a walking zombie. I wasn't even lucid until the last day. Then all of a sudden I'm like, so you need to maybe go early to acclimate. It's all those kind of things that like people just forget. You have to bring the adapter, right? I sleep with a CPAP, right? So you got to make sure you have your electrical adapter to plug the damn thing in. So there's just all these little things you have to think of at Gen Con when you're walking around. Like you noticed, make sure you bring your medication. Make sure you bring hand sanitizer. Make sure you have all these things in your backpack or in your pockets, or make sure you just, there's just a lot of work, a lot of preparation, a lot of stuff to any convention.
There's usually a lot of stuff that you just don't think about because you've never been to one before, and you don't know how it's going to be. But I will say this: another cool thing about going to Gen Con and or going to Essen is that if let's say you get there and it turns out, wow, I really don't enjoy being here. Indianapolis is a really cool city just to go visit. It is. It has a lot of neat stuff that you can do outside of the convention hall. So take that into account. Same thing with Essen. You're in the middle of Europe. You're in the middle of Germany, for crying out loud. And there is plenty of stuff to go do, plenty of stuff to go see outside of that convention. So while it might seem like, well, I paid to come here to this convention and I'm not going to the convention, that's just a waste. Not necessarily. Especially if you find that you're not enjoying yourself at that convention. There's plenty of, that's just the good thing to do. That's one of the reasons why I tell people about the Board Games Cruise, is because you can take your entire family, and while you play board games for 13 hours a day, bad boy, your family can go do other things on the boat. That's
absolutely right.
Same thing is true with Indianapolis and with being in the middle of Europe and Philadelphia for PAX. There's just a lot of cool stuff to do outside of the convention as well. So just keep an open mind.
Yeah, and with that being said, if you make the decision to attend any one of these conventions, please ask as many people as you can that you know to give you advice, to give you their opinion, their thoughts, whatever, any information you can get, because everything helps. For example, I just had a person ask me who's been to Gen Con several times. They're like, "Oh yeah, they don't have a library. There's no way you can play play games and all." You're kind of right. However, BGG at one of the hotels that's adjacent to the convention center rents a hall, and BGG gets every single copy of every single game debuting at Gen Con. Sure, you have to pay BGG to do it, but what you do by doing that is you get to sort of get yourself away from 60,000 people, and you get to go in this room and play all of the brand new games there at your leisure, at your pace, at your time. So you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that, because I had to wait in line to play this game, or I could never get to that table. Well, just go to the BGG hall and you can. So these are like little bits of information. There's so many things like that. Ask as many people as you know who have attended to give you little tidbits of advice, little pieces of information, and that'll just help make your experience that much better. Even where to stay. If you have to stay 30 minutes away, people probably have done it, and they can give you advice where to do that. You know, hey, you know anybody who has connections or is going to cancel? Can I get a room? I'm willing to pay $1,000 a night to stay right there because it's expensive. You know, maybe they can get you in or whatever. You can share a room or something, but whatever. Just really get as much information as you can.
Absolutely. And by the way, you said doo-doo. I'm just saying.
Did I say doo-doo?
Yeah, you said doo-doo.
You just said it too now.
I was just calling you out, though.
Oh, yeah. So good. So, yeah, that's fantastic. And again, you know, the conventions are really good, whether it's a small, tiny little convention, you know, 150, 200 people, because like you said, or even 20, like you said, your game nights, you know, not necessarily a convention, but a gathering of people getting together playing games. So whether it's 20 people at like a game night that Sam hosts, or it's 75,000 people at Gen Con, anything in between, you can have an amazing time, an amazing experience at any one of those events.
Totally agreed.
Yeah. All right. Well, great. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to another episode. And as always, Sam, was fantastic talking to you about games and stuff.
Always good.
Yeah. And please, again, I know I say this every week, but please make sure, you know, you watch other shows on the Dice Tower channel, because that's where, you know, you watch this. Make sure you like, subscribe, and do all that. Check out Sam over on the flip side. He can tell you about that.
I will. Yeah, I'm on the flip side of board games. It's my own channel. You just type it in. You'll find it.
You'll find it. But other than that, keep happy, keep playing games. And from Tim from Las Vegas, I will see all of you next week.
And from Sam on the Pacific Northwest, take it easy. We'll see you on the flip side.
Bye, everybody.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.